Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another week of Good Guys Sports. Good to be with you again. Myself, your host, Blake Gerke, Jackson Gerke, Mike Roby, and Blake Lamberger here again as we're getting closer and closer to football season. We got some exciting topics, some exciting uh, games, guests coming up on Good Guys Sports this fall. So stay tuned for that. This week, we're going to be talking fantasy football. I know a lot of you listeners and viewers have maybe your draft has already happened. You have drafts coming up here soon on Labor Day before we get into the NFL season. So, this week on Good Guy Sports, we're going to be breaking down players, teams, all relating to fantasy football. We're going to try to help you win your league this year. I'm speaking as a former league champion, so I can say that. But before we get into that, if you're watching on video, you can tell from Jackson's sweatshirt and hat that it took place a little event at the beach down there in Wrightsville Beach in Wilmington, North Carolina this past Monday, Jack. So I understand you took part in a little surfing event. Is that right? Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
I did, Blake, and I'm glad you brought. The people of Service Healing were very nice enough to people of the Autism Awareness were nice enough to make me to surf and ride around and ride on those surfboards or ride on those waves. And Miss Tegan, my coach, was nice enough to hook me up and be part of it for at least the fourth or fifth year in a row now, if you
Jackson, you
can
got
believe it.
Tegan in?
Oh,
That's awesome, man. You get Tegan
yeah.
everywhere. That's
Well,
so
I was very
cool.
lucky, and she was nice enough to she was yes, Blake, and she was very
That's
nice enough to
awesome.
yeah, it really is, and she was nice enough to hook me. Yeah, she was nice enough to help me on the ropes and help me get better on my on my surfing skills and riding on those waves and bending my knees and just try to stay on balance and tell you like right on shore. But although I will tell you, Blake, that the surfing conditions out in the ocean were not that easy in the last previous
Hey,
years,
you surfed the
especially with
hurricane.
the hurricane. Yeah, with Hurricane Aaron offshore
You shredded the
offshore
hurricane.
towards Bermuda, and that was where things I think made to me made very challenging. That we had to change course and just had to and just had to do it on the more on the little more shallow side of the ocean and just really just had to play it safe and just had to and just and we just had to like the, and that just like just try to write it just basically what we did was we just is that we just tried is that we did it on a more uh, on the more shallow way towards the water on the shore so that we didn't want to get part of the rip currents. Well, there were times where I wiped out the board where those waves were just crashing in building up towards me and had to duck underwater a few times with my nose and that was not easy. But I mean, hey, what do you expect? I mean, those waters out there, out in the ocean, was not easy and brutal conditions. It was something that you just had to deal with part of a part of the surfing experience, and then it was something that it was one of those years where it was like no other, where you just had to like dive on into the water and just try to and just try to stay under as much as you can so that the ocean rip current wasn't pulling against you, so that you just didn't want to have to pull you put you offshore out in the middle of the ocean, where like in the worst case scenario just drown you. So there so while I was in the middle of my so it's interesting because I was out in the middle of my run and Miss Tegan just had to rescue a little girl out there that was drowning, and that was just really that was just really probably one of the more scary and more frightening situations out there by far because of how dangerous the conditions were out in the ocean because of the red flag was out and they had so much going on and just I just had to wait a little bit until I had to resume. So I got like at least 10 tries at least on the surfboard, and 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 so I and so
Time
I
you still
and so I had to ride the perfect wave, and we started and so my first shift and so and so my time slots for my surf started around 9:30 in the morning, and I think we went till like 11:30, and we had to find the perfect wave, especially in those ideal conditions, which was not easy to deal with because of the winds from Hurricane Aaron, and that was and we just kept trying until we found the perfect one, which we finally pulled it off, especially when those conditions were just not easy, and the water just like was pulling into to the shallow shore of the beach, and that was really one of the more challenging things of this year's tournament for this of the service healing event, and I would have to say this was by far the more challenging, and if not the more biggest ones yet that I've ever been around and involved in for all of my for all of my 9 years of me doing this surfing event, which is something that I've that me and my mom and I have never seen and dealt with before for those conditions out there. And I mean, think about it that we were this close of being of being postponed and canceled for this event. Well, we were lucky enough to pull to get this one in. Pretty get this one get this one in. Thank goodness. Um, Luckily, and so we were lucky enough to get those 10 runs in. Um, um, Finally, we finished up and got our trophy and got the and got and my mom and dad and I took several pictures, and that was a very and that will be probably by far be remembered the more probably it will be remembered by far the more fun experiences that that I will probably remember, especially in those conditions that where the winds were really picking up. It was windy, and the waves were just so gutsy, and just were really picking up, and that was just something that I probably will never forget, especially for those especially on that day where pretty much the hurricane and the winds from the got cloudy overcast skies the next day wherever we left, but I'm glad we got it in. Um, thank goodness, that we were able to get in. But overall, it was a but overall it was a great and fun experience to meet with people from Service Him again, from people from around the world, and how they and how the people were very nice and treated me very well. And Izzy and their son Isaiah were the ones leading this thing, and they were nice enough for me to be part of this event again. And I gotta say, it was something something that I will say that I gotta say that it was the more it will definitely be one of the most crazy and bizarre things that I will never forget to remember. And but overall, it was a great experience. People at Service Healing, and people were very nice enough to really check it out, and just really know how it was a great experience. And those people from around from this from I was a part of, for getting the gear that I was on for Service Healing, and how they really were a part of it, and me making some new friends, and bringing part of the meet and greet at the Road Rudder Hotel in Rachel Beach, and and from my biggest takeaway from my reaction to this is that they were nice enough, and people were just were very nice to me, and that it was a great experience, and overall, I I I got to tell you guys, it was a more fun an experience that I'll never forget, especially from when Muskegon coached and treated me well. And I think those people just did just that. And I just think I got to say I can't wait to do it next year in my 10-year anniversary. Hope to be back at it at the same place same time next year. And overall, I got to say I had a great time. It was a fun experience, and that it would be something that I will never forget in a lifetime that I've ever get to be a part of.
Yeah, and you mentioned there, Jack, you've been doing this for almost a decade, participating in surfers healing. Do you feel like your surfing ability has increased year over year? You feel like you're more confident year after year going out there, getting into the waves. Personally, I'm speaking as a novice surfer. I mean, I barely even, touched a surfboard, so it's always great seeing you get up there. But do you feel like your surfing ability has gotten stronger and stronger with every subsequent event?
No, I think it's getting there. I think it's getting there. I think year after year, you're seeing some dominance of building up, of getting my strength back from leading up from my forms of physical therapy, and just leading up to this moment, and how my body is just getting bigger, better than ever. I think it's just showing you of how your strength and your body and your legs are just trying to build for this moment, and for what you just have dreamed of is definitely something that you want to take away and be a part of. And I think it just did, and I think it just does just that. And I think that from my experience at service healing, it has just become a true of a great of a lifetime for me from doing something that I've ever accomplished, and that's something that I will never forget from what I did in the history books for this event. But like I said, service healing was a great fun experience, and I hope to do it again next year. And certainly, those people were nice enough to do, and I think that they were were great, and I think that and I think they those people with building up have really did just that, and I just want to thank them, and again, I just want to thank them for allowing me to do this to do the service healing event for the people that are leading up to this. Well, the great food and hospitality they had, it was a great time, and I look forward to doing it again next year.
Well, Jack, not only is that a physical challenge, but you have to have a lot of self-confidence to get out there. So kudos to you to have the self-confidence to go out there and try again and have a great time. So good job.
Thank you, Mike. That's
Yeah,
very
and
nice of you to appreciate it.
we should just give a shout out as well to those who aren't on YouTube that aren't seeing Jackson's merch. Surfers Healing is the name of the event. Obviously focused on helping those in the autism community with surfing, travel around all across the East Coast, the West Coast. It's a really cool event. I was able to be there, not for the surfing event, but the night before. I met some of the people there. Really great group, as Jackson said. So please go look up Surfers Healing social media, support them however you can. Really a great event and a great time. I would agree with everything Jack said.
That's right, Blake. And one more note that they
Yeah.
were in Ocean City, Maryland, and Virginia Beach, not too far from where Uncle Mike is. And then they're currently in Folly Beach too. So
Yep.
and then their home base is Dana Point, California, which is on the West Coast. And then Del Mar, New Jersey is one of those potential spots. They'll do Texas and Galveston this year, but their home base is out in Hawaii. So that's really where they spend their off season at compared to where we are on the road. So yeah, look them up, like Blake said.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Well, I think, like I mentioned at the top, I think we're gonna spend a little bit of time here next talking about fantasy football. I'm sure many of you listening and viewing at home are a part of a league, whether it's a family league, work league, friends, I'm sure everyone here has a draft coming up soon. So I figure we spend a little bit of time just breaking down fantasy football. We obviously spend a lot of time on this show breaking down individual matchups, teams, whether it's NFL or college football. But obviously, from a fantasy perspective, we're really focused on individual offensive players who we think is going to have a productive season, not necessarily what teams we think are going to win the Super Bowl, not who we think is going to have the best record in the NFC. We're really looking for these offensive explosions to happen, or players that we like from the previous years that we think will continue to have a strong year. So I'll just get us started by rattling off a couple of the top players. I'm not doing anything earth-shattering here and telling you who, the top fantasy players to keep an eye out for from various positions are, but I think a lot of people for their top five would have, in no particular order, Jamar Chase, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, and CeeDee Lamb as well. I think would fit into that top five. So obviously, you've got a pretty clear top three in terms of that running back position, and I think Chase and Lamb are two receivers that will not last particularly long in your draft. So a lot, I would say, not a lot, I would say the majority of the sites I see have Jamar Chase as the number one overall fantasy football player, not just for his wide receiver position, but overall, if you're in a draft, Jamar Chase is going to go number one overall. I would expect that to be the case for most people's drafts. Does that sound about right to you, Mike? I'll ask you, if you had the first pick, is that who you would press the draft button on?
Well, if I had the very first pick, of course I'm going to go to Jaden Daniels, but that's just me.
Really? Wow,
But
you wouldn't even, I guess you think if you had the first pick, realistically, you think you might have difficulties getting him with your second pick.
well,
Obviously, you would have to wait a bit
I would
further.
probably, in all seriousness, I'd probably just pick Barkley.
You think so?
Yeah, probably so.
Why is that?
Well, I just think he's a beast. He's going to get the yardage. He's going to get the touchdowns, and you know that that's why I would pick him. But before that, now in your league, do you play PPR, points per reception, or half a point, or no points?
I believe we are half PPR.
Okay. Because that'll make a difference depending on the rules of
Sure.
whatever the league someone's in, could make a difference for who they're going to pick. Now, if they're playing, 1 point PPR, then yeah, you might want to definitely look at a receiver. So a lot of that is going to matter, as well as you got to look at the bye week. You don't want to get all your players and have, three-quarters of your team have the same bye week. So you got to
Hmm.
look at that as well. But before you get all that, you got to have a cool name for your team.
Of course.
So Blake, what's the name of your team?
Well, Mike, I have been for quite a long time the cleverly named Shaken Blake.
Shake and
A
Blake.
nice little play off of my first name, obviously. I think I've had that I think I started out as something different in this league that me and Jackson have, or I
Hmm.
think I've been in it, I think from the start, and then Jackson's been in it for a couple of years,
Yeah.
our family league. And yeah, Shaken Blake has been the name
All
for the
right.
last couple of years, and
I
it's
might
certainly.
borrow that, Blake. Just saying. I might
I was
borrow
gonna
that.
say,
I
yeah,
like it. I
feel
like it.
feel free to have that one, BL, yeah, for sure. But
You
I
just
feel
have
like
to play. You have to pay rights for the naming rights.
exactly, yeah. I think actually our league is I think a quarter point 0.25
Hmm.
value
Okay.
per completion, it looks like, which is a Yahoo default. We've been with Yahoo for a while, so
Yeah.
um but yeah, so not maybe not as valuable as obviously a full point PPR. I feel like
Hmm.
half point is probably the most reasonable kind of
Yeah.
middle ground there. But Jackson, I'll ask you the same question. If you had the first overall pick, obviously we're not giving away our draft secrets here. It's not like Jamar Chase is some secret player. So all you League of Champions teams listening, don't get any ideas. But Jackson, are you Chase number one overall? If you had the number one pick, if you were Sonny Weaver from draft day, number one overall pick, you would pick Chase or somebody else?
I would definitely take Chase because
Okay.
he is by far the most dominant and won a championship in college, especially on a
We're not talking
team.
college ball here. We're talking pro ball, my friend.
Well, yeah.
You don't get
You think
PBR points for winning
you
a national championship.
well, yeah, well, yeah, I get it, but you
No,
got
but
to hear,
he's been dominant for
but you got to
Cincinnati,
hear
hasn't he?
me out. He has been dominant in the pro and college level
Right.
ever since he started in his football career.
Him and Joe Burrow too, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I think Jamar Chase is just that because
Hmm.
I get it. I get it. The Bengals don't always have a great player on that team, but Jamar Chase, who I think is a difference maker as a fantasy player, can really do it all. And I think that Jamar Chase can do just that, especially on the offensive side of the ball when he can score a lot of points and score a lot of touch and record and give and score a lot of touchdowns. He can pretty much do it all on 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 both sides of the end of the field, especially when he's especially if you're playing him and you want to score a lot of points. And I think Jamar Chase is the player to consider.
Yeah, listen, you won't get any arguments from me. I think that Bengals offense, as it has been the past couple of seasons, is going to be explosive for sure. Um, and I mean, Chase has just proven to be a reliable fantasy player. Burrow's favorite target. Bengals throw the heck out of the ball, don't they? And I think as well from a team perspective, Cincinnati, they have obviously the storyline with the defense has been that holdout from Hendrickson that hasn't been resolved yet. That defense is still a bit of a question mark. So it wouldn't. They're still going to be probably a team that's playing from behind, i.e., they're going to be passing the ball a lot. So you can't really go wrong with Chase. Again, I don't disagree with Mike that Barkley is right up there as well in terms of that number one overall pick. Obviously, he was immense last year for Philadelphia. It doesn't seem like much is going to be changing this year in terms of Saquon's production and value. So really hard to argue with that for sure. BL Lineberger, is that I'll ask you the same question. Number one overall pick in fantasy, who would you be leaning towards?
Yeah, it's same as Jackson over here. I'm gonna
Chase, yeah.
stick with yeah, Jackson.
Fair, yeah. I think it's
Call me crazy.
no. I think it's definitely the consensus. So you're not crazy at all. No, I think most people
And my
have
team name is Blake and Shake, not to be confused with the other ones mentioned so far.
Blake and Shake. Okay, I feel like I feel like you can almost
Yeah,
use Lineberger as like a nice play on words too for
it's
a team
true.
name. We'll have to do some brainstorming on that.
Yeah, right, right.
You could do like Lineberger in Paradise, like a Jimmy Buffett cheeseburger in
That's
Paradise kind
pretty
of
good
thing, or
too.
something. I just
Yeah,
I'll think about it. I'll think about it. I'll get a
Burger the
nice
game.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you got some options there for sure, for sure. But yeah, like I mentioned in that top five, Chase Barkley, Gibbs, Bijan. I like Bijan. I had him last year. He was solid. CeeDee Lamb from Dallas is always that top target. I think one of the big question marks, I think this year from a fantasy perspective is where are you putting Christian McCaffrey? So I was in a couple leagues last year and I had the number one overall pick, and I took Christian McCaffrey pretty much for no other reason than he was just the number one pick, and it seemed like that was the right thing to do. And obviously, last year was, I mean, disaster might be a bit strong, but I mean, he was injury plagued the entire season, and he's kind of had these nagging injuries, Achilles issues. That's always been a discussion, talking point issue with McCaffrey. I think a lot of people have him still in the top 10. Seems like he's healthy enough. We thought that was the case last year, and then all of a sudden, he couldn't buckle his chin strap, come week one. So Do we trust McCaffrey this year? Do we think it's a bit too much of a risk to have him in the top 10? I personally would stay away in the top 10, but
And I'll see.
say it again.
What's his age? What is it?
McCaffrey's age, I think I mean, he's been around for a while, hasn't he? I mean, he's sort of the original fantasy football superstar. I think he's 29. And he's kind of, he's always been there and thereabouts, and he's put up some insane numbers both with Carolina and with San Francisco. But I don't know, Mike, are you staying away this year?
I would. I think there's an I mean, I think he would be a later draft choice if he's available.
I think he'll probably slide in a lot of drafts given that history concern personally,
Yeah,
but
but I think there's a lot of other uh
running
good
backs.
yeah, good well, in the running backs particularly, you got Robinson, Henry. I would pick um Ashton Genty before
Hmm.
McCaffrey.
Go for the rookie production, yeah.
Yeah. He's kind of one that I'm kind of watching this year. But then you also have Johnny Gibbs.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, I think if you obviously for that running back one position, it's going to be Barkley, Gibbs, Bijan. I think after that, Jackson, maybe it's a bit more up in the air, like Mike mentioned, Ashton Genty. Of course, you have Derrick Henry with Baltimore, still going strong, even at his age. Um, is that running back position after that top three? It's sort of a bit up in the air, right, Jack?
Yeah, I think it is, especially with Austin Jeffrey, where he is by far the sixth overall pick from this year's draft, where he
Hmm.
is a focus point on for this Pete Carroll Las Vegas offense, where
I
he
think he'll
can
get a lot
really
of
be
production.
dominant on the
Mhm.
ball, a lot of production, like I said,
I'm pretty high
on
on
the
Genty as
ball.
well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he can really do it all when he has the ball, when he can score, when he can find the open field when it's there, and I think that he can really get on the outside scrim, can expect to play with his offensive coordinator Chip Kelly, can really spread out the offense, especially when he has the ball. So I think that Jeffrey can really do it all, especially for this Raiders team that can really be dominant and just try to score on both sides of the ball. That can really be the difference maker for this Raiders football team.
Yeah, not to jump ahead, the Raiders also have the number one fantasy tight end in Brock Powers.
Of course,
That's
of course.
right. That's
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. We can jump to tight end as well. Yeah, I think in when one of the leagues I was in, I had Brock Bowers, and man,
Johnson,
he carried me. He was amazing last year.
I got played for Jackson. Like he played for a school we know of in
Oh,
college.
He was a
Brock Bowers. Well, I'm glad you asked that, Blake. He played his college ball at the University of Georgia under Kirby Smart, and he was by
Uh,
far their most dominant tight end player under Kirby during his time there in Athens. And I think that he can really do it all in the pro level from his takeaway and his experience that he learned from Kirby Smart to the pro level, especially in a Raiders uniform. And I think that Brock Bowers can do just that, especially during his time in Georgia, where he can really be the do it all difference maker. And Brock Bowers
dude,
can
I
do
like
can do
that,
a lot of
Jack.
it everything.
Do it all
Can do a
difference
little bit
maker.
everything, Blake.
that's a
I
good
like
yeah.
that. Do
That's
it
his
all
new
difference
that's his new
maker.
nickname, Brock Bowers, aka the Do It All Difference Maker. I like that.
What's
Yeah.
the Raiders slogan? What's that cool little slogan they have?
The Raiders.
Commit to excellence.
Wait, what's the owner? Wasn't there one about the owner or something?
Oh, just win, baby.
Yeah.
Just, is that
Well,
right?
they're
Okay.
they're
It
I haven't
all
done
they're
much of
started,
that
yeah.
recently.
It all started by Al Davis,
Al
and
yeah,
Davis.
his motto was commitment to excellence.
Oh, I
Hmm.
like it. I like it. Was Al Davis a Jerry Jones type? Was he kind of heavily
Well,
involved in the?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
well,
yeah, yeah.
Al Davis was one of the original owners coming out of the AFL.
Oh wow.
and his son then took it over.
And his son is known for great haircuts. Just an interesting,
Great's doing a lot of work there, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Especially with the Chris Permanent invention, the Raiders, especially when I hear them on ESPN. So
Well,
yeah,
if you're in Vegas now, so you gotta have your hair looking good.
That's right. Speaking of Vegas and Raiders, have you guys watched the Cowboys Netflix special? I've heard it's better. Some people are saying it's better than the Last Dance special. Call me crazy.
well, well, it's going to surprise you, Blake, but me and my dad and mom and I did watch a few
Okay.
watch a few of those episodes last night, and
And
and and and we were not impressed. They talked,
Ooh.
yes,
Ooh, hot
and
take. Hot take.
oh yeah, it starred Troy Aikman, Jimmy Johnson, not the race car driver, but the head coach of the Dolphins. And, I'm sorry, the head coach of the Hurricanes and the Cowboys, who led the team, who led the Cowboys to multiple Super Bowls during that time, and starred by their either backup quarterback on the show. Forget his name, but they had like Evan Smith and and of course Jerry Jones and the Jones family, and they talked about the history of the Cowboys and how they really evolved of the history of the team, and how it was all first founded, where Jerry Jones started his college career at Art.
Why did you
went
not love it, Jackson? Don't spill it. Don't spoil it for me. I hadn't seen it yet. Why did you not love it though?
well, because of Jerry Jones, of how he. Well, I'm not. I'm just saying that Jerry Jones has become
Because it's about the
true
Cowboys.
icon.
That's right. There you go.
And Jerry
I thought
Jones,
that
how
was
he bought the
America's-
team and all
That's not
started it all,
America's
and
team,
become
mate?
How about them Cowboys?
yeah, and how he become America's team, and that's really what this really all really what this all is, and what they talk about on this, of how it all is for how they talk about how Jerry Jones, he started his own
Hey, Jackson.
I would call oil business out there in Texas, and that's really and really he started he grew up in Arkansas, and he run a grocery store, and that's really what he all did during his childhood. That's really what whenever I think about Jerry Jones, that's what I would call him, a iconic businessman. Is
All
what
right,
he
last
is.
question. Last question, Jackson. Thanks for the view. Last question. If you had to choose, you choosing the Atlanta Falcons or the Dallas Cowboys?
Ooh, that's a tough one there, Blake. I know you're tricking me there.
Tricking
Well,
me.
if I had to choose, I'd probably have to say probably the Falcons.
All right, good call. I think Blake's gonna be happy to hear that. That's all I got.
Fair
Thanks,
enough.
Jack.
Fair enough.
Well,
Fair enough.
I had to say it because I didn't want to feel Uncle Mike Roby and make him feel bad for me to say that. But that's why I had to I had to choose the Falcons because I don't know if you remember, Blake, Uncle Mike, like every other NFL team except for the Cowboys, because that's really what I did there.
Yeah.
And that's why I had to stick with the Falcons.
You know what song they used to play at RFK?
What's that, Mike?
Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys.
Mm.
That's
pretty
interesting.
good. That's pretty good.
Just still as relevant as it is today. Speaking of the Cowboys, though,
Especially in those days.
I mentioned CeeDee Lamb as probably that top Dallas Cowboy receiver. I do want to jump to just the overall receiver rankings. Obviously, wide receiver, really that make or break position for most fantasy football teams, isn't it? So, Lamb is in that second spot behind Chase, who we discussed a lot already. But I think an interesting talking point is, a fantasy player who has been, immense the past couple of years for Minnesota Vikings. That's Justin Jefferson. Obviously, different quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold last year, and obviously this year he'll have, rookie, quote unquote, injured all of last year. This is his first year. J.J. McCarthy throwing Jefferson the ball downfield. So do we think Jefferson is a bit more risky this year, given the fact he'll have a first-time NFL player chucking him the ball, or are we still pretty confident in Jefferson given his track record of production in that offense? What do you think, Jack?
I think it's a bit risky if you ask me, but I don't know. I think it's going to be just one of those things where, especially where you're playing against a division, especially for a team that is, and I just think it's just really just going to be really feeling a lot of pressure if you ask me, especially if you're playing against a team that you're going up against, especially when it comes to fantasy wise, where you just don't especially when your player doesn't really like score a lot of points like those players did. But that's really what I think about it. But
So Jack, would you pick him over AJ Brown?
so who's the player again?
AJ Brown.
AJ
From
Brown.
Philadelphia, yeah.
Oh yeah, I would
He'll
definitely
probably
pick
be
him.
that top target still in Philadelphia.
Oh
But
yeah, I would definitely take AJ Brown because
I
he
would
is.
still go Jefferson personally.
Well,
I
yeah,
think
Justin Jefferson.
but the reason I think Brown will still be have some of his production split by some of the other receivers by Devontae Smith in Philadelphia, where I think Jefferson will still, by and large, have that huge catch volume in Minnesota. I think McCarthy will end up relying on him. But I do agree. The reason I brought it up is I do think it's inherently risky drafting. You could end up being your first overall pick in your draft, and he'll be reliant on JJ McCarthy, who we have never seen play a regular season NFL snap, right? So
Well,
it's
yeah, because
inherently a risk.
he's been that's because he's been injured last year, and I think to your point about just about JJ McCarthy being out from missing out the entire season from last year. I just think that if he were to stay healthy and you get Justin Jefferson with some great protection when healthy, then yeah, I think this Vikings offense could score a lot of points only if they stay healthy, and that's really the amount of pressure I think they'll be facing against if they don't stay healthy and 100%. That's going to be a whole different conversation for Justin Jefferson on this Vikings offense.
Yeah. Blake, you said something earlier about wide receivers. You were talking about Chase, and you said that Burrows is going to have to be throwing because the Bengals defense isn't all that good.
Right.
And so I got to thinking, that's a good point when you're picking a wide receiver in
Absolutely.
your fantasy. How often is their offense going to have to throw?
Playing from
And is
behind.
the play from behind? And is the wide receiver teamed up with a decent quarterback?
Absolutely. It's a
So,
huge factor.
so that said, I would have a flyer with Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jaguars
Mm.
because I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a bounce back season, much
Okay.
better than he did last year. But I think the Jaguars are going to always be, well, not always, but they're going to be more times than not trying to come from behind.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So that said, I think that the Brian Thomas, you might put a flyer on him.
No, for sure. I'm seeing him kind of in that 7, 8, 9 range in a lot of
Hmm.
leagues, and obviously he had a great year last year for his rookie year, and no, I think it's a great selection, honestly, and I agree. I think Jacksonville is definitely going to be one of those teams that is going to be airing the ball out given the game situation they're in for sure, and I think considering the quarterback, considering the team is a huge factor for sure. I think that's the case with a
Hmm.
lot of these players as well. I think, one player who um I think as well, thinking about young quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks, someone like Drake London, he's probably in a lot of top 10 receivers.
Hmm.
You have to think about Michael Penix, and obviously he's going to be
Yeah.
the full-time starter this year. He came in late last year, and how we think he's going to throw the ball. He's a
Hmm.
big time down the field thrower, right? So that could
Hmm.
end up being beneficial for someone like
Yeah.
London.
Or Nico Collins in Houston.
Absolutely, yeah. Like
CJ Stroud throwing to him.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
Absolutely.
you really have to consider a lot of these factors, particularly with wide receiver,
Hmm.
um, for that quarterback. And if they're
Yeah.
in an offense, I personally like to avoid, at least with my top picks, receivers who are in an offense that I just don't feel great about that offense. So like
Hmm.
I'm not going to be drafting Garrett Wilson. And with any of my top picks, I just don't feel great about the Jets offense.
Yeah.
Nothing against Justin Fields, but he's primarily a runner. So I just don't I just wouldn't personally feel great about
Yeah.
using one of my top picks on Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
So things like that is kind of what I'm considering from a
Yeah.
receiver perspective.
So you wouldn't be picking Malik Neighbors either.
Probably not. That being said, I did have neighbors in one of my leagues last year, and even despite the quarterback struggles that New York had last year,
Hmm.
I can't even remember they were starting a couple different players last year.
Yeah.
And to be honest, this year will probably be something similar where they start with Russell Wilson and then eventually go with Jackson Dart would be my guess. So that one's a bit up in the air. I could definitely see it where after a couple of weeks, Malik Neighbors is frustrated with the quarterback play. Maybe Dart comes in, Neighbors gets revitalized. So there's a little bit of risk there. So
Yeah.
I like
But I
Neighbors. I
think the
don't like
Giants will
him.
always be from behind, throwing from
That's
behind.
that's true as well. So I honestly think Neighbors is not the worst pick. I think it's a bit risky if you're going all in on Neighbors and maybe overdrafting him. But
Hmm.
to your point, he's going to be huge usage in that offense, and they're probably going to be throwing the ball, like you said. Not the best team in the NFL, are they? So
Yeah.
other position players, wide receiver, running backs, other teams that I like, other offenses that I like. Um, I'm always well, let's talk about quarterbacks now. We haven't really talked about quarterbacks too much, have we?
No.
Mike mentioned Jaden Daniels at the beginning. Um, I think there's a lot of draft sites boards I'm seeing are kind of having a bit of a top three, top four, maybe, where it seems like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson are probably going to be the first two quarterbacks off the board in your league. No surprises there, right? Um, and I
Mhm.
think after that you have Jaden Daniels, and then and then Jalen Hurts probably could be another pick there. I personally think Jaden Daniels is a really good. It's not breaking news to say he's a good value in fantasy, but you have to factor in the rushing yards that Jaden Daniels gets. So I think I personally would have him at third. I'd have him over Hurts because of the rushing advantage that he has. I don't think I would have him above Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. Obviously, Mike probably does because of more of a sentimental fan value. So we can't trust him to be objective in any commander discussion. But Jack, if you were picking your quarterback out of all the available options, who'd be your first quarterback off the board?
So my first quarterback off the board would be Lamar Jackson,
Okay,
Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Jaden Daniels
so you've got Daniels
in my
fourth.
top four. Yes,
Okay, so why do you have Lamar Jackson first?
because a few things. My dad write it down on my top fantasy
Oh,
football
what
list
does he know
for a
about? He's never even
quarterback.
won a championship.
Well, that's on his words, but he says that to expect the Ravens to run the passing game, to run. He can run the ball, and he can in the middle of the field, which Jackson is the most comfortable. His rushing powers will continue to bolster his fantasy value, and I think that Lamar Jackson can really do it all, like getting out of the pocket and just try to take care of the football and just try to run as fast as you can, kind of thing. That's really what Lamar Jackson can do, and yes, he can put up Michael Vick numbers, and I think Lamar Jackson is is the player that can do just that, and that's why I have Lamar Jackson at the top of my board for my number one overall pick.
Okay, fair, fair. So, Mike, you have Jaden Daniels with your first
Hmm.
quarterback off the board, you think?
Yeah.
That's,
Um,
I mean, listen, I'm not going to argue with you because I think that rushing advantage that Daniels has is you can't really match that. Obviously,
yeah.
health dependent, of course.
Yeah. Well, I've been, reading a few articles of late about Jaden, and during the off season, he basically went over a lot of film on him, and to scout himself, and came into minicamp uh, much stronger. He's put in a lot of some muscle mass, and been working on his feet work and whatnot. So I think he's going to continue to improve. Now, everybody could have, the sophomoric slump, but I don't think it's going to happen, particularly with Kingsbury as his um, offense coordinator, who, by the way, when he was at Texas Tech, had another quarterback that he trained up for 3 years, who was
A
playing for the
multi
Chiefs,
Super
playing
Bowl
for the
winner,
Chiefs,
perhaps.
perhaps. So
Hmm.
methinks that the Commanders' offense coordinator knows how to coach up the quarterbacks.
I think that's a fair
So
assessment. That's a fair assessment. I think that Commander offense is not going to slow down. I don't think.
yeah, yeah.
I don't think it's, maybe it's not crazy opinion to think Commanders might have some second year struggles just as a team, but I think offensively they have the pieces there. Jaden Daniels continuing his progression as that top
hmm
quarterback. So yeah, listen,
Yeah,
I'll certainly be looking to snag him in my draft. That's for
yeah.
sure.
But then my other right underneath of Jaden is Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson.
Right. No, yeah, and I think it's always worth mentioning as well draft strategy when it comes to quarterbacks, right? Because generally speaking, I'm of the, maybe the opinion that some other people have that a quarterback shouldn't really be your priority in a fantasy football draft. And, I'm not here to give a lecture on who you should or shouldn't draft come fantasy football draft time, but I do think quarterbacks, you can always find good production, good value later on in a draft. Maybe you're in a two quarterback league where you start two quarterbacks. That's a thing that exists for a lot of people. So quarterbacks more of an importance. I think most people probably would be in a traditional one quarterback league. So there certainly is value to be had there later in the rounds. But if you just want to, like I had Josh Allen in one of my leagues last year, and it's great to just have a guy who you know is going to play every week, put up numbers, and just be a constant in that offense, right? So
hmm
that's something that you are particularly invested in and want to emphasize, then drafting a quarterback high is not the worst strategy in the world. I just think placing an emphasis on receiver running back is personally my preference, but getting one of those top tier quarterbacks never a bad thing. Plug and play. I think as well. I know Jackson picked Patrick Mahomes probably a little bit too high in the end last year. But he's always kind of there in that top 10. Depending on the Chiefs offense, maybe it's more of a brand recognition thing. Chiefs offense, maybe not quite what it used to be a couple years ago, but um, I'm seeing some decent value late in terms of quarterbacks wise. Again, a lot of this is just dependent on, how the season progresses. You got guys like Caleb Williams looking to take the next step under a new system there. Um, with Ben Johnson in Chicago, same thing with Drake May, New England. Of course, Brock Purdy, Mayfield, Bo Nix, all these guys that could potentially put up big numbers. I think you want to hone in on teams like we are mentioning earlier from the receiver position that are going to be heavy passing offense, a big emphasis on throwing the ball. So, or even some of the runners, like we mentioned before. I think Kyler Murray and Justin Fields would fit into that field, right? To that category, right? Guys that maybe you're not feel great about them as pocket passers, team offense, but they're going to make up for it with some of those rushing yards, right? So definitely something to consider for sure. Any other quarterbacks you've maybe got your eye on, Jack, that aren't those top five guys? Guys you might get later in the draft.
Maybe players such as Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, who
Okay.
can really step it up, especially when they're entering in their next few seasons later that can really take the next step and just learn from this offense year after year, each season. Maybe Justin Herbert, who the former Oregon quarterback, can really is actually the one that I have my eye on because with the Chargers offense under Coach Harbaugh he can really be the difference maker and dominant as a quarterback of the football, and can really make this football team more fun and exciting for this for Harbaugh being in your locker room. That can really be your difference maker, and Harbaugh and Herbert with the Chargers can really do just that. And I think and Herbert and Herbert with their quarterback is really your star player and by far the best team on your roster that can really be the do it all difference maker. And I think Justin Herbert can really do it all. And I think that can really can really do just that. And then also Cam Ward, we don't really talk much about him from the Titans. Maybe he can take the next step in the pro level, and really the former Miami quarterback can really take care of the football and just try to release the pocket and just try to run and just really and then really just really make this Tennessee offense just really really that dominant and pretty good this year. Maybe I think that's probably the ever quarterback that I have my eye on. And the one that we have to have our eye on, and who I think to me is facing the most pressure. And yes, he's getting old, but he's not aging, and he's still younger and still going at it. And yeah, he's facing a lot of pressure. You may think he's old, but he's not. But he's still very young and still playing strong. And that would be Aaron Rodgers from the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No.
Yeah.
You're not going to draft him, are you?
No, I'm not. But I'm just.
What are you talking about then?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that Aaron Rodgers. This is his biggest season and his biggest moment. That I'm telling you right now, Blake. That is his biggest. That's just going to be that he's going to be facing a lot of pressure, and this is going to be one of the biggest. This is going to be a championship or bust kind of thing for the Steelers, meaning that Mike Tomlin better win some football games this season, or else
Mike Tomlin on the hot seat.
He could be on the. That's right. That's what I was going to say. That if the Steelers start off strong and hot and off to a great start, then we won't have to worry about the Steelers' future for their head coach. But if they lose let's say they lose their first few games and they are coming off a rough start, then yeah, I will definitely. Then I will definitely put Mike Tomlin in the hot seat and face a lot of question marks for this team. That's really what I have to say about the Pittsburgh Steelers this season, especially with the starter quarterback Aaron Rodgers, especially when you don't have Mike Tomlin, which is by far the best winning quarterback duo since Belichick and Tom Brady. Just in that same category there, just to keep in mind. But yeah, it's going to be a make it or break it season for Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers this year, especially when you're playing against Joe Burrow and this tough division that you have to deal with, especially with the Browns defense. Lamar Jackson most likely going to stay healthy, and Jamar Chase, like I just mentioned earlier in the show, and Joe Burrow, you're going to have to deal with each weekend and week out basis in that division. So yeah, it's going to be a very fascinating and very, very fascinating and a team to watch for the Steelers this year, especially with their star quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Now, the one quarterback that I would that I'd like to point out is that they're probably not is that the Giants are probably going to start Russell Wilson as their quarterback, but if they were to start, but let's say Brian Dable, who's in charge of quarterbacks, of course, and then of course, he's most likely going to start. Russell Wilson has to start QB, but let's say as QB1, most likely Russell Wilson. But let's say if he starts Jackson Dart as QB number 2, and you could be then if so, then I say that you could be most likely having most likely Uncle Mike would probably appreciate this, that you could possibly seeing a maybe I'm being a little biased here, but you never know. But maybe you could be seeing a Jackson Dart versus Jaden Daniels um, quarterback showdown in the NFC East between the two former SEC quarterbacks going at it. Was that between Ole Miss versus LSU? Wouldn't that be something to watch? I mean, we'll see, but you never know. It could happen, but I'm doubting it. But and
Go
then
Tigers.
well, yeah. Well, yeah, and then of course G-men with their quarterback will be saying "Hotty Tommy, Hotty Toddy." So yeah, there's that, Mike. Yeah, and so also the one that we're also keeping our eye on, Shedeur Sanders for the Browns. Well, since 1999, we have seen quarterback competition like the Browns quarterback depth is really loaded. Like you got Joe
Yeah.
Flacco and
Well,
Shedeur Sanders.
Browns have come out and said they're going to start Flacco.
Well, yeah, and Shedeur Sanders is really is really not happy from his reaction as starting QB, and he's just going to just probably just run a few snaps, but probably just going to be probably from the reactions from Browns camp, and I'm not hearing from the Browns is that Shedeur Sanders is not happy, and he's not liking what he's seeing so far from not getting the starting job as QB. So yeah, he's had a lot of he's had a lot of doubt and drama lately for especially in the draft. So yeah, Shedeur Sanders is definitely is definitely not happy and loving what he's seen so far as not becoming a starting QB. So yeah, and there's that, and so now Blake, I turn your attention to our Seahawks. Sam Darnold as the starting QB. Well, you you start off with him and start with Cooper Kupp as most likely the team that I should probably draft in
This
my
could be
fantasy league.
two good options for
Two great
fantasy,
duos going at it. Yeah, I mean,
for sure.
yeah, you're probably yeah. Sam Darnold against Cooper Kupp, one of your favorite targets. Well, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that if you're a
Could be a
Seahawks
good
fan. So
could be
yeah,
a
I
good
think
duo
that would
there
be
for sure.
something. Absolutely, and I think that with all the quarterbacks that I named and listed, that would definitely be something to keep our eye on for the season, especially for those names that I listed. So yeah, lots to consider for the upcoming season.
Absolutely, absolutely. So hopefully we've given you some information to help you make your fantasy football picks whenever your draft is. And best of luck to all those drafters over the next couple of weeks. Real quick before we go, just want to get your guys' picks for there is a couple of college football games taking place this weekend, most notably the Aer Lingus College Football Classic live from the Aviva Stadium in Dublin, Ireland. That's right, the Irish are going to take place. A little bit of college football, as is the case the past couple years. Iowa State taking on Kansas State. I guess a bit of a Big 12 matchup, I suppose. That conference still exists. Jackson, who do you like? Quickly.
I like Kansas State in this one.
Okay. Wildcats. Mike, who you got?
Kansas State.
Kansas State. Okay. I think for that reason, I'm going Iowa State. I'm going with the value there. We couldn't make it three in a row, could we? So that would be too obvious. So go Cyclones is what I said.
Well, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to go with Chelsea.
Okay. I'm picking Tottenham. I'm picking Tottenham then. Very nice.
I'm picking Arsenal.
There you go. There you go. We got our footballs mixed up here, don't we?
We sure do.
Don't even get started on Gaelic football, which they play in Ireland. That's a whole other discussion.
Well, yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
fellas. Well, we have just about ran out of time here on Good Guys Sports. So I want to say thank you to all who joined us today and watching and listening at home. We'll be back next week where we'll be doing talking about even more college football. as a big slate of games is coming your way here towards the end of August. So thanks everyone and have a great weekend.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.